Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I had a lot of this video ready to go yesterday, but it was had a lot going on yesterday and did not get around to it. Now, the week that we are going into this week might be one of the more interesting weeks, not just in the history of crypto, but in history, period. That, I don't do politics on this channel, but let me tell you what. There are some things going on and a lot of it doesn't make any sense. And I'm just looking around and just like watching all this military in DC. It's got a real creepy vibe to it. I saw somebody sent me yesterday a video of this emergency intercom system that's been set up in DC, and it was just creepy. I mean, it was creepy. So anyway, enough on that. But I've always believed all the geopolitics, all the things that you're seeing going on in the world. I've always been fascinated by how I think that the world there are things going on that a lot of us will never understand. Maybe we'll understand after the things happen. But I've always felt like digital assets and this transition to a new economy worldwide had everything to do with digital assets. Ripple, XRP, a handful of others. I've always felt that, and I still feel that. So I don't just watch the news and stare at it and say, oh, this doesn't have anything to do with this. No, I think everything has to do with this. Okay, I tweeted this out yesterday. XRP stops trading on Coinbase this week. See you on the other side, #0doubt. I'm not telling any of you to do it, but I am one of the people who is a believer. And so I will continue to hold my XRP. I don't care about all these trading halts and all this stuff. That doesn't mean anything to me because the XRP ledger is its own living and breathing thing. It's out there. It's not going back in a bottle. Okay. And so I will continue to hold my XRP through all of this stuff. Okay. Just like Chris Larson will, Brad Garlinghouse will, all that. Okay. Now let's move along because I got a lot of good stuff today. First thing, I saw this from Joker. Some fractals telling me Bitcoin 140,000 in summer 2021. It's going to be hot. I thought that was interesting. President-elect George Vegdelek, I guess is how you say his name. He sent me this. Now this is interesting. Open your ears, pay attention. This XRP King Lin kind of came out of nowhere and started putting a lot of things together. A lot of interesting little videos coming out. I've said before, I see some of these people and I'm reminded of some of the accounts that left Twitter a couple of years ago, the Rachel Lees, the Tony Valentinos, the Kendra Hills. When I see guys like this pop up, watch this.
Risk management procedures. I mean, how long is that going to take to get up and running? And here's the biggest one. Ensure that the legacy exposure is minimized. Well, that's going to be a tough call to pull all that legacy exposure of $750 trillion into the new systems here in a single day and not have it go haywire. I can't see a smooth transition. I really can't do it. Can't see it. Because in addition, what they're going to be riding on is this CDM data model. Machine readable, machine executable models for derivatives products. This is all about standardizing how derivatives are traded and managed through the life cycle. And talking about the fallback rates, this PDF is also linked in the description box below. But look at the players inside here. And if we're looking at the Bank of England, Bank of Japan, Reserve Bank of Australia, Federal Reserve in New York, they're all inside the RippleNet protocol as well, using their own internal ledger settlement systems, so they're all running on RippleNet, which is interesting because the protocols supplement live date day one, January 25th, 2021. In my opinion, this is going to lock the markets up completely. They're going to have so many difficulties trying to get this thing to go live that they're just going to cease trading. They're going to cease risk management.
That reminds me of when Jim Rickards was talking about the ICE 9, his ICE 9. I don't even know if you call it a theory. He acted like it was fact. Okay, thanking all heroes sent me this one. Watch this. It is so funny when we get to watch Pompliano get taken to school. Watch this.
My issue around these special asset classes, let's drift back to Bitcoin because it is the granddaddy of all of the debates going on here. There would be tremendous value in a currency, a digital currency, and every time I talk to you about this, it's the same topic I look at the asset value of Bitcoin versus the asset value of all things traded. And Bitcoin is still a nothing burger, a giant nothing burger. And the reason I would argue that that's the case is you don't have every institution willing to play ball with it. But if there was an attempt to either take Bitcoin itself or some other currency, because I think Bitcoin's proven the first mile, there's no question about it. There's global interest in digital currency. But a digital currency that could be traded everywhere with the regulator agreeing to it and would be agnostic. In other words, you could trade it to buy assets in Switzerland, trade it to buy assets in France or in England.
What is he describing there, folks? Does my son need to draw you a picture?
Or in the United States, and everybody would take that digital currency. Then you would have something, Pomp. Then you would have something of tremendous value.
I love how Pomp just sits there and acts like, oh, yeah. It reminds me of the time that he was interviewing Brad Garlinghouse, and Brad Garlinghouse laid everything out that XRP was and what it could do and all that. And he's like, well, I just don't understand why that couldn't be done with Bitcoin. Well, the reason it can't be done, the reason what O'Leary's describing here can't be done with Bitcoin is because proof of work does not work. It is the reason that it will only ever be a store of value if it's allowed to be that. That's it. You can look at its white paper. They said it was a payment. It was supposed to be for payments when they wrote when Satoshi Nakamoto put that white paper out, and nobody, including Pompliano, can deny that it does not do what it was intended to do. Period. That's because I believe it was a test by governments in the first place. XRP, XLM, they've always been the ones. It's not Bitcoin.
Value. Because that way I could keep half my net worth in the digital currency and just flow and trade and go in and out of things. I could buy groceries. I could buy a house with it. I'd be agnostic to it. That is a vision that's really attractive versus this tiny little thing that for some people is an outlier that in many ways is not liquid or not easily liquid. Like if I want to buy $1 million worth of Bitcoin right now, I got to do a fair amount of work to pull that off. It's not instantaneous. It's getting better. I agree.
Ticket Attorney sent me this. This is cool from Las Vegas locally. Slot machines are getting ready to accept cryptocurrency payments. I love going to Las Vegas, so that is great to hear from my perspective. Michelle Vandenberg, that timing, guys. Okay, this guy I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of this. Bitrue is going to be changing your XRP wallet address on January the 22nd. So do not send XRP to your current wallet address after the 22nd because it won't be the same one. You might lose it. I wouldn't do that. So, okay. Also, I wanted you to see this. This guy from Flare, he's at Community Flare. He put out another video that you need to see. I watched almost the whole thing. I'm going to show you a little clip from it. What he's talking about is this Flare Finance, dFLR airdrop workflow. He says, ask and you shall receive. This video takes you through the distribution of both Flare and Flare Finance's dFLR. If you found this video informative, believe it could help others, please feel free to share. So go give this guy a subscribe. He's literally done a flow chart. Okay. Now it's important you understand this thing started earlier here, but this is the part where he starts to talk about how you can participate in these two, which is, dFLR, and then there's another one I can't remember. But anyway, so we had the Flare snapshot on, what was that, December 12th. Listen to what he says.
Basis for around 25 to 34 months. This equates to roughly 3% of your allocated.
So he's saying that for between 25 and 34 months, you will be getting your flare drop that you participated on that snapshot. Now he's going to go into the other things that you can get also. Watch.
Spark each month. The Flare Finance snapshot will take place exactly 30 days after the launch of the Flare network. If you are the custodian of your Spark tokens and have them stored in an offline wallet, you will receive 100% of your dFLR around 7 to 10 days after the Flare Finance snapshot. If you are holding your assets in a Spark participating exchange, you may or may not receive 100% of your dFLR. If the exchange supports both the Spark airdrop and the dFLR airdrop, you will receive 100% of your dFLR.
So what I got out of that so far is that on the day that the Flare network goes live, you need to have your I guess I'm trying to think this through. On the day that the Flare network goes live, I guess you just need to really hope that the wherever the exchange is that you had your Spark, that it's still there, and that they're going to participate in dFlare as well. That's what I'm gathering out of this.
If they do not, you will have two options. You can keep your Spark where they are and receive nothing, or you can move your Spark to a supported exchange or offline wallet and receive 15% of your dFLR.
Okay. And then he goes on and he goes into the other thing that apparently the dFLR is going to have no value, but then you can roll that in. And that's what the video is about. I'm not going to play the whole thing. You can go and watch it. Go give this guy a subscribe. He's Flare Community. Give him a subscribe. I am subscribed, I think, but I'm not signed in on this browser. Okay. Spend as much as you can. The IMF head urges governments worldwide. Let me tell you what. Here's what I smell coming out of the IMF. They want all these countries to spend as much money as they can to fight the current events that we've had. The lady that heads the IMF, that's what she said. Policymakers worldwide should embrace more spending to help revive their stuttering economy. What she's doing, and I can tell you this, I can smell this a mile away. In terms of policies for right now, very unusual for the IMF. Starting in March, would go out and I would say, please spend as much as you can, and then spend a little bit more. Well, here's why she would say that, is because she wants the countries to bankrupt themselves, because then who is the final lender of last resort? Just like Jim Rickard said, when all the central banks and the countries of the world go bankrupt, who's left standing? The IMF. And that's what this is about. Make no mistake. There are multiple countries, and I believe the United States is one of them. I think that we are literally in the middle of watching the process of controlled bankruptcies across the world. That's what I think that we're about to witness. Controlled bankruptcies. Okay. Crypto Dim sent me this. CoinDesk scoop U.S. banking powerhouse Goldman Sachs has issued an RFI to explore digital asset custody and will be entering the market soon, according to a source inside the bank. Now, here's the article. It wasn't just Goldman Sachs. This is the only thing you need to see. It's Goldman, JP Morgan, and Citigroup, really the three of the biggest banks in the United States now and in the world. Now, my father, the official father of the Digital Asset Investor channel, always told me that nothing happens in finance. There will not be a new system unless Goldman and JP Morgan and probably Citigroup also are involved. You can now see it's official. They're involved. They've been involved from the very beginning, but they have sent out all kinds of mixed signals to try to scare everybody out of this stuff, probably so they could scoop all this up on the cheap, because that's how they play the game. That's how they've always played the game. I tweeted this out having to do with this. This is from the article. It said, when asked about timing, Goldman source said the bank's custody plans would be evident soon. Okay. So Goldman, JP Morgan, what that means is that they're going to be able to hold your crypto riches, folks. All right. Now, and so I had the eyeballs and I said, look at PolySign. They're still quiet. They're going to be the back end custody for a lot of these firms, I'm telling you. And then I also said this. I've always wondered why there was never any real custody solution for individuals. They were always going to let the big boys custody manage the assets of this newly created wealthy class. Yes, it's the greatest wealth transfer in history. And when you hear that on the surface, that doesn't sound like much. Or in other words, that doesn't sound like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, greatest wealth transfer in history. Well, if we've been right about this all along, do you think that the mega banks and the people who run this country and run the world, the JP Morgans, the Goldman Sachs, we're not going to make sure that when this new wealthy class is created, that they don't get to manage the assets of it? Haven't you always wondered why is it that Uphold has no real custody solution? Why is it? Yeah, Coinbase, we know for a fact that Coinbase has a custody solution that is no different from when I go and I buy stocks on Charles Schwab. When I buy a stock on Charles Schwab, I don't worry about my ownership of those stocks because I know that those stocks are being custodied by a traditional custodian. I don't ever think about it. I just know that I now own the stocks. Why have we not had that as individuals, even on Coinbase? When we know that Coinbase has been providing that institutionally, well, if you can provide it institutionally, then why can't you provide it to retail? The answer to that is you could easily do that. But they haven't done it. And I've always thought that the reason they weren't doing it is because they were going to give that to the big boys who've always run the world. And that's exactly what I think we're watching. And not only that, this talk about Bitcoin ETFs, and it never seems to happen at all. They're going to give the ETFs to the big boys too. Write it down. All these random companies that are trying to get a Bitcoin ETF, don't be surprised if out of nowhere it's a Goldman Sachs or someone like that gets the first Bitcoin ETF, or a BlackRock or somebody like that. Maybe a Vanguard, one of the big boys. Okay. And it'll just be like, oh yeah, well, we just decided now would be a good time. And it'll just happen to be one of the monster companies in this. These people run the world. That's the way the world works. Get used to it. Okay. And I made sure to point this out. Remember, Coinbase picked Goldman Sachs to lead their IPO. And I said, and now Goldman Sachs announces they will custody digital assets. All the world is a stage. And let's not forget this. Remember this from September 5th of 2018. Goldman Sachs reportedly halts plans for crypto trading. So they put out there this whole idea that they've kind of changed their mind. And I can remember the market was tanking back then. These kind of announcements would come out and everybody would be like, what? So we were wrong all the time? And of course, I always said, nope, we're not wrong. They're not just coming in. Everybody's coming in. And now you're starting to see the truth of it, is that everybody is coming in. Everybody always was coming in. But we were I can't even count the number of times we were lied to in the media over the course of the last 2 years about this. XRP, that bigger thing, sent me this. I can't tell you how many times I was laughed at. Oh, nodes on satellites. Oh, that's crazy talk. That's conspiracy. That's, what do they call it, on Twitter? Oh yeah, these are conspiracies. People are dealing in conspiracies and you can't talk about this and you can't talk about that. Because if you don't have it written on a piece of paper, it doesn't say on a piece of paper by an approved piece of paper that this is so, until you get that verification from all of the acceptable news outlets, then it can't be true. Well, turns out, yeah, sometimes we can speculate and we can be right, because this is from David Schwartz right here. There are two reasons. This is just some thread that he was in on Twitter. There are two reasons it doesn't matter. One is that the U.S. is getting cut off from Asia for an hour or more is extremely unlikely. The other is that all it takes is a single node on both sides of the split parentheses, or a satellite. And there isn't a partition. Now, I've been saying that I thought they were putting nodes on satellites for a long time on this channel. And I've been called every name you can think of and how crazy that is. And yeah, sure. And whatever. That didn't come out of nowhere. David Schwartz, and I'm not saying that David Schwartz is involved in putting nodes on satellites, but I'm telling you someone is. And I personally believe that those nodes are going to be XLM and XRP, as well as some others. It's not going to just be those, but I believe that I don't think Greg Kidd was kidding when he said intergalactic currency. And he said XRP was the first intergalactic currency. I don't think that word came out of nowhere. I think Greg Kidd knows exactly what's going on and always have. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family that XRP/XLM are the one and the other one. Tell them I said so. Thanks for listening.